The night my family finally destroyed me, they didn't raise their voices. They just waited for me to sit down. When I walked into my parents' house, every single person was already there. My husband, my sister, my parents, frozen around the long walnut dining table like actors who'd missed their cue. The silence hit me first.
Thick.
Staged.
Wrong.
My father stood up slowly. Not to hug me. Not to ask how my day was. "Elena," he said, formal and clipped.
"Sit down.
"We need to talk." He didn't pull out a chair for me. He pointed to the empty seat at the head of the table, the one he usually reserved for himself. The gesture wasn't loving. It was managerial, like I was a junior executive being summoned for discipline. My husband, Mark, wouldn't look at me. His shoulders were hunched, his hands trembling slightly in his lap. Beside him sat my sister, Vanessa, 7 months pregnant, smiling. Her palm rested on her stomach like a claim. My mother, Patricia, sat near the window, quietly crying into a linen handkerchief, playing grief the way she always had, delicately, convincingly, and without actually saying a word. This wasn't a family meeting. It was a setup. My father, Richard, slid a thick folder across the table. The sound it made, dull, heavy, echoed in the room. "We're not asking you for a divorce," he said. "We're asking you to sign over your controlling shares in the company." I blinked once. "You're too emotional to lead right now," he continued smoothly. "Vanessa is carrying the future of this family. We need stability." I looked down at the papers, then back up at them. For 10 years, I had been the CFO of Hawthorne Medical Logistics, the company my father loved to call his legacy. I was the one who fixed audits, smoothed lawsuits, kept payroll running when cash dried up. I was the one who stayed up until 3 in the morning while the rest of them spent money like it grew on the walls. And now they were voting me out of my own life. They expected me to cry. They expected yelling, begging, a scene. Instead, I picked up the pen Richard had placed perfectly beside the signature line. Heavy. Black. Expensive. The kind used only for contracts worth millions. "I've been distracted lately," I said quietly. Richard leaned back, satisfied. "We all have limits, Elena." "Yes," I agreed. "I sign things without asking questions." Vanessa smirked. "Like the check for your new SUV," I added calmly. "For the baby's safety." Her smile twitched. "And the wire transfers for Mark's business trips," I continued, turning my eyes to my husband. $42,000 in Las Vegas. I approved those too. Mark swallowed hard. "I just wanted to keep the peace," I said. "That was my mistake." Richard tapped the folder impatiently. "Sign it. We'll take care of you. You can move away. Start over." They looked at me like I was already gone.
So I signed.
Every page. Every clause. Slowly.
Carefully.
Then I slid the folder back across the table. "Congratulations," I said softly. "You now own 100% of Hawthorne Medical." Relief washed across their faces until I smiled. "You might want to call the bank," I added. "Because along with the company, you just inherited all of its debt." Richard frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I filed for corporate bankruptcy this morning," I said, checking my watch. "Hours before I came here." The room went hollow. "The accounts are frozen. The credit lines are dead. And since you now own it all, the creditors will be calling you." My father went pale. "You're lying," he whispered. "Check your email." Phones buzzed. One after another.
Ping, ping, ping.
I stood up, grabbed my purse, and turned toward the door. That's when it locked. I heard the mechanical thud. Deep, final. And when I turned back, my father wasn't panicking anymore. He was calculating. "You really think I didn't plan for this?" he asked quietly. That was the moment I understood. This wasn't over. It was about to get dangerous. The lock clicked again, softer this time, like the house itself was holding its breath. "Unlock the door," I said. I didn't call him Dad. That word no longer applied. Richard shook his head slowly, the way people do when they pretend to be sad for your own good. "You're not well, Elena." My stomach tightened, but my face stayed still. A sane daughter doesn't destroy her family's legacy, he continued. A stable wife doesn't bankrupt her husband. I felt it then, the shift. This wasn't anger. This was strategy. You're having a breakdown, he said gently. We're helping you. He pressed a button on the intercom and bedded into the table. Send them in. The side door opened. Two men stepped inside wearing Navy medical scrubs. They were not nurses. Their shoulders were too broad, their movements too precise. One of them carried a small black case in his hand. What is this? Mark whispered, finally finding his voice. Medical professionals, Richard said smoothly. For Elena. My mother nodded, dabbing her eyes again like this was all terribly unfortunate but necessary. She's clearly a danger to herself, Richard went on. Manic. Irrational. I looked at my sister. Vanessa was watching the scene like a TV show. Curious. Removed. One hand still resting on her stomach. I have a doctor ready to sign an emergency hold, Richard said, turning back to me. 72 hours. Involuntary. Severe emotional collapse. You're going to lock me up? I asked. To regain control, he corrected. Once you're declared incompetent, I become your conservator. I can reverse the bankruptcy. Fix everything. The men stepped closer. I realized then that none of them saw this as violence. In their minds, I was a malfunctioning appliance. You don't ask a broken machine what it wants. You force it back into service. This is kidnapping, I said, backing up until my legs hit the desk. It's an intervention, Richard replied calmly. Sit down. One of the men unzipped the case. I saw the syringe. Don't touch me, I said, slipping my hand into my purse, not for a weapon but for proof. Grab her. Hands closed around my arm.
Strong. Controlled.
Professional. Easy, ma'am, one of them said, swabbing my skin with alcohol. Just a little pinch. My heart was pounding, but my mind was clear. Too clear. Because while they thought I had been checked out for months, I had been counting. Every transaction. Every lie. Every theft disguised as family support. Mark, I said suddenly. He looked up, eyes red, terrified. I knew about the baby 3 months ago. Vanessa gasped. I knew about the affair 6 months ago. I continued. The hotel charges. The fake consulting fees you paid to her shell company. The diamond earrings she's wearing right now. Mark went white. I didn't confront you, I said. I let you steal.
Why?
Vanessa whispered. Because petty theft gets you fired, I said evenly. Grand theft gets you prison. Richard stiffened. You called me the smart one when you needed tax loopholes, I said to him. But you thought my silence meant obedience. I twisted my arm just enough to throw the man holding me off balance. I didn't stay because I was weak, I snarled. I stayed to collect evidence. The syringe hovered inches from my skin. Sign the power of attorney, Richard snapped. Or they sedate you. No, I said calmly. I just have one question. He hesitated. Do you know what piercing the corporate veil means? Confusion flickered across his face. Corporate funds were used for personal expenses, I continued. The house. The cars. The renovations. I approved them all.
His color drained.
I didn't sign those checks out of loyalty, I said. I signed them to make you personally liable. Vanessa panicked. What does that mean? It means the debt isn't just corporate anymore, I replied. It's yours. Richard snapped. Sedate her. They pinned me to the table. The needle touched my skin. And then, sirens.
Loud.
Close. Let go, I said quietly. Unless you want assault charges added. I lifted the silver brooch from my lapel. It's a wire, I said. You just confessed. The doors burst open. Federal agents flooded the room. My family fell apart in minutes. And for the first time in my life, I was free. 6 months later, the house still stands, but it's empty. The iron gates are chained. The fountain is dry. Weeds crawl through the marble cracks like nature reclaiming a lie. When I drive past it now, I don't feel triumph. I feel distance. Like looking at a photograph of someone else's childhood. Richard and Mark are awaiting trial. Separate cells. Separate lawyers. Neither has tried to contact me directly. Their attorneys have.
Carefully.
Politely. Like men approaching a live wire. Vanessa didn't visit them. She called me once. She was crying. Not the elegant kind my mother perfected, the ugly, panicked kind. They took everything, she sobbed. I'm in a motel. I'm pregnant. You can't do this to me. I almost laughed. I didn't, I said. You did. She told everyone I ruined her life. That stress caused complications. That I was heartless. Online, distant relatives posted vague quotes about forgiveness and blood being thicker than water. None of them asked where they were when I was being dragged across a table. I work in a small office now. Glass windows. No locks. No panic rooms. My desk faces the sun. I make less money. I sleep more. The first weeks were the hardest. Every loud sound made my shoulders tense. Every unexpected knock froze my blood. I woke up at night convinced I could still hear the click of the lock. I started therapy. It took 3 sessions before I could say it out loud. They never loved me, I whispered. The therapist didn't rush to correct me. She just nodded. That hurt more than denial ever could. My mother testified for the defense. She said I was always intense, always controlling, always unstable. I watched her say it on a screen in the courtroom waiting room. Hands folded, voice trembling, performance flawless. That was the day I stopped missing her. Mark tried to plea bargain. He offered information, apologies,
Tears.
I loved you, he said during a recorded deposition. I was just weak. Weakness is a choice, I've learned. So is silence. The prosecution asked me if I wanted to testify. I said yes. Not because I needed revenge. Because I needed the truth spoken in a room where it mattered. When I took the stand, I didn't look at them. I talked about numbers, patterns, decisions. And then, at the end, I said one sentence they couldn't object to. They didn't break me, I said. They trained me. Vanessa went into labor early. I heard it through a court clerk who recognized my name. The baby survived. I felt nothing. No guilt. No relief. Just clarity. I deleted the ledger last week, the one I'd been keeping in my head for years. Every slight, every debt, every unpaid emotional bill. Letting it go felt like setting down a weight I'd forgotten I was carrying. But healing isn't a straight line. Some nights, I still wonder who I would have been if I'd been loved without conditions. Other nights, I realize that woman never existed. And that's okay. Because the one I became, she survives. Still, there's one thing no one talks about. When systems collapse, they don't do it quietly. They reach. And somewhere out there, consequences are still moving.
Toward me.
The letter arrived on a Tuesday. No return address. Thick paper. My name typed, not handwritten. Like someone didn't trust their emotions with ink. For a long moment, I just stared at it on my desk while the afternoon sun spilled across the floor. 6 months ago, my hands would have shaken. My chest would have tightened. Instead, I felt curious. Inside was a subpoena. Richard's legal team was attempting one last maneuver, claiming I had manipulated him, coerced signatures, engineered everything while feigning mental instability. It was a Hail Mary. Desperate.
Loud.
Predictable. I closed my eyes and exhaled. The old version of me would have panicked, would have spiraled, would have opened the ledger again, replayed every moment, every choice, wondering if I'd gone too far. But I didn't open the file. I called my attorney. We scheduled a response.
Calm.
Methodical.
Clean.
That's the thing no one tells you about healing. You don't stop feeling pain all at once. You just stop letting it drive. The final hearing lasted less than an hour. The judge didn't raise his voice, didn't lecture. He just listened. To the recordings, to the paper trail, to the timestamps. When Richard's lawyer suggested I had orchestrated my own confinement attempt, the judge actually paused. Then he said, "That is not how evidence works."
Case dismissed.
Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Microphones. Cameras. The story had grown teeth. I didn't stop. I got into my car, rolled the windows down, and drove until the city thinned into open road. I cried then, not because I lost my family, because I finally understood I never really had one. A month later, I changed my last name. Not back to my mother's. Not forward to anything symbolic.
Just mine.
I framed the certificate and hung it above my desk, not as a trophy, but as a boundary. Vanessa sent me a message after the sentencing. Just one line. I hope you're happy. I didn't reply, because happiness was never the point. Peace was. Sometimes people ask me if I regret it, if I wish I'd handled it softer, if burning everything down was really necessary. Here's the truth I never say out loud. I didn't burn the house. I stopped holding it up while it was on fire. There's a difference. I still believe in love. I still believe in loyalty. But now I know this. If your worth only exists when you're useful, that isn't family. That's a contract. And contracts? They can be terminated. I turn off the light in my office every evening at exactly 6. I walk home. I cook real food. I sleep without fear of locks clicking behind me. Losing everything didn't destroy me. It gave me my life back. And this time, no one else gets to own it.